Welcome in, everyone. As always, great to have you all here. We have a interesting topic to discuss today involving a town hall Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth conducted on Friday, February 7th. If you're watching this, it is being filmed on February 9th, Sunday, so 2 days after the town hall. And in the town hall, Secretary of Defense Hegseth had a moment that I think is really worth focusing on. And it was a clear warning to America's enemies, anyone who might want to threaten the United States, whether that's south of the border with the cartels, overseas, wherever the enemy might be. He sent a clear warning, and it's worth unpacking, which is what we're going to do here today. Before we get into that, always, please make sure to like and subscribe, comment with your thoughts, really helps share the messages of American heroes, which is the goal of what we're doing here. So let's get into it. Pete Hegseth, obviously Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense, he's hit the ground running. He's talking about all options are going to be on the table when it comes to dealing with the cartels, that we're not going to take any threats. We're not going to be pushed around. We're going back to the old ways of American power, American dominance. And that's exactly what he said in about a minute-long segment of the town hall that was held Friday. And let's go ahead and roll the tape and see Pete Hegseth's message for anyone who thinks America's getting weak. Play it right now.
Unfortunately, over the last couple of years, we've seen events that have occurred that have created the perception, reality or perception, but I would argue more perception of American weakness, whether it's what happened in Afghanistan, by the way, which we're going to have accountability for, deserve accountability for what occurred in Afghanistan, for what happened on October 7th, the war that was unleashed in Ukraine. Chaos happens when the perception of American strength is not complete. And so we aim to reestablish that deterrence. And it starts with our own southern border. It starts with the defense of our homeland. I think in some ways this department over time has felt like that's somebody else's mission. We've spent a lot of time, decades, my generation and yours, defending other people's borders across the world, yet we've seen an invasion of our own. From people all around the world who I'm sure many of them want to seek a better life. I understand that. But we also don't know who millions of them are, what their intentions are, why they're here. That creates a very real national security threat to the country.
So there you have Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth laying out how he views, if it's perception or reality, if the enemy views the United States as weak, it opens and invites aggression around the globe. It invites aggression at the southern border. It invites aggression in East Europe. It invites aggression in the Middle East. And when you're strong and have that deterrence, people don't want to mess with you. The reality of the situation is when Trump was president the first time, there was no big war in the Middle East. There was no Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, those are very complex topics. You can't narrow it down to one specific thing. But Hegseth is 1,000% correct when talking about the fact that, one, you've got to secure the border. You've got to secure the United States of America. These cartels are pushing their poison. They're pushing trafficking over the border. They're pushing their violence over the border, like we saw when some hikers were shot at by cartel members. You had all hell break loose in the Middle East on October 7th when the attack unfolded in Israel, and we've all watched what's happened in the last, 15, 16 months after that. We've watched Russia roll across the Ukrainian border, and that's not to say that the United States needs to get involved in any of that, right? I'm not sitting here arguing that we need to rush in and do something in the Middle East, that we need to rush in and put troops in Ukraine. I think actually that would be a terrible idea that we absolutely should not do in both cases, to be quite honest with you. But the underlying principle is that when people believe the United States is strong, they're going to hesitate to do something very stupid. They're going to hesitate to move on targets. It's the same concept of what you see with Taiwan and China right now. If China believes the United States is weak, and military experts believe that they want to be ready to go to invade Taiwan by 2027, if they think the United States is weak and the United States military is weak, and for the record, the United States military is the greatest military in the world. Anyone who tells you otherwise, anyone who says that there's a different military that's more powerful than the United States is quite frankly lying to you. That's just the fact of the matter. If they sense weakness, the stakes for them get lowered. And when the stakes get lowered, the cost of going to war get lowered. Thus, you might do something that if the stakes were significantly higher, because you feared what the United States military will do to you, which is, I'll be frank with you, kill you, then you're not going to do it. This applies anywhere in the globe. Pick an area. The logic is the exact same. Let's take the cartels, which Pete Hegseth has made it crystal clear. Again, all options are on the table with them. If the cartels don't fear what the United States might do in reprisal or retaliation for their actions, why wouldn't they push the limit as hard and fast as they can? If they can push their poison over the border and they can push their violence over the border and we don't do anything about it, they have no incentive to stop. But let's flip it for a second. If we drone strike a cartel leader, or we send in Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, the Rangers, whoever it might be, to their nice fancy mansion somewhere out in western Mexico, and just murk those dudes, wipe the floor with them, as Brent Tucker on the Anti-Hero podcast said he believes would happen if it came to that, well, now the costs are significantly higher. You're gambling with your life every time you do something stupid. You're gambling that the United States of America is not going to come wipe you off the face of the planet in retaliation for what you've done. Or we might preemptively do it. That's the basic fact. You need to be feared. Your military needs to be feared. I know everyone wants to get in a circle and sing Kumbaya and hold hands and believe that it's all sunshine and roses out there. That's not how the world works, folks. That is just simply not how the world works. You need people to believe that if they get aggressive with you, your response will be so overwhelming and so powerful that it will cost them everything they have. And that's essentially what Pete Hegseth is arguing here. That the perception, whether it's reality or not, because reality oftentimes doesn't matter. It's what people believe that matters. And if they believe you've gone weak, then they're not going to hesitate to do stupid things. If they believe you're strong and they believe that you're going to launch 200 cruise missiles in response to anything they do, well, now all of a sudden they got to sit back, put their hands up, think about it for a minute, and they might come to the conclusion it's just not worth it. Weakness invites aggression. Strength deters actions from hostile forces. It's been that way since essentially the start of human history. It was this way 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. It's going to be this way 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. It's just the way the world works. So I applaud Pete Hegseth for saying that. I certainly hope the military returns to the greatest glory possible. And we do have the greatest military in the world. And anyone who wants to challenge it gets a blunt, brutal, and violent reminder that the United States of America doesn't play games when it comes to protecting its citizens. If you made it this far in the video, please like and subscribe. Comment with what you think about Hegseth's comments and what you think the United States military should do to confront different threats around the globe. I'll see you all next time.